Now listen up.
Because Insights EDU 2025 is coming, and this is the conference you don't want to miss. Meet us February 12th through 14th in New Orleans for one of our favorite higher education marketing and enrollment management events of the year. Imagine 3 days packed with actionable insights and the latest innovations in higher ed. We're talking top industry experts, real-world case studies, and hands-on workshops designed to help you grow your programs, boost engagement, and elevate your student experience. This is your chance to hear the latest higher ed trends from speakers at Google, Reddit, Meta, MIQ Digital, and schools across the country. Mark your calendars, get your team, and get ready to welcome the era of the modern learner at Insights EDU 2025. Register now at insightsedu.com and secure your spot. We'll see you there.
Attention.
Registration is now open for the Middle States Commission on Higher Education 2024 Annual Conference, Protecting the Future, Champions for Higher Education, December 11th through 13th, 2024 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Don't miss out. Register today at msche.org/annual-conference or head to msche.org and click on the conference link. I'll see you there.
Hey everybody, this is Elvin Freitas, co-founder of the EdUp Experience, and today we are extremely excited to announce our paid subscription service. By subscribing today, you will get exclusive early access to ad-free episodes, extended episodes, bonus episodes, original content. That's right, original content and invites to special events, all while helping to sustain EdUp. To become a subscriber, go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com and subscribe to our free email newsletter to learn how you can get access. Again, go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com.
Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. I'm your special guest host today, Dr. Lori Shannon, and I'm the host of EdUp Accreditation. And I'm joined here today with my lovely co-host, Lenitra Berger. And Lenitra, I know she's the president and chair of the board of directors at NAFSA. Did I get that right? NAFSA. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself before we introduce our guest.
Sure. Well, I'm so glad to be joining you today, Lori. I am, as you mentioned, the president and board chair of NAFSA, which is a 10,000 plus membership association of international educators. And we are a global association. So we have members all over the world who are committed to internationalizing our campuses and our communities.
Well, that is awesome. And you are perfect to be the co-host today because of all of your experience that I don't have about international students and all of that. This is going to be great. And we have here today with us Dr. Mike Flores, and he's the Chancellor of Alamo Colleges District. And we are so happy to have him. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Flores.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So, as I looked at your profile, I was just really curious, and I wanted to know, as the first Latino Chancellor of the Alamo Colleges District, how has your cultural background influenced your leadership approach and vision for the institution?
That's a good question. So I would say two things. One is, I'm fortunate that I've served with Alamo Colleges District for 25 years now, a quarter century. It makes me sound really old, but 25 years. I am the first Latino chancellor, right? And I'm also the first internal candidate to have been identified as and selected as chancellor by the Board of Trustees. So previous chancellors came from outside of the organization. And so I think that my appointment says that it's important both that we honor those within our organization who have been able to move up and understand the organization. And then two, looking at the demographics of our students, looking at the demographics of our community, it's important to also recognize community context, right? So I think that that's particularly important. That has both my lived and professional experience have definitely informed what we do here at Alamo. Colleges, we have 77,000 students. And Yeah, as part of that at our 5 colleges and our 8 centers, and 78% of our students are students of color. The vast majority are Hispanic or Latino, 8% are African American, and then about 2% are Asian. And so predominantly students of color, reflective of the community that we serve. And I'm just proud of everything that we've been able to accomplish. It's myself and 5,600 other faculty and staff that are able to support or back up our 77,000 students, Laurie.
Wow, that's impressive. Anitra, did you have a question?
I have so many questions. Dr. Flores, you've been on my list of people that I've always wanted to have a sit down conversation with, because there are just so many aspects of the work that you do as president that intersect with what we do at NAFSA in terms of international education and the ways in which we try to support students at George Mason University in our own commitment to inclusive excellence. So my question for you is really are there any initiatives that you want to talk about in terms of your international work that you think are particularly helpful for this audience? I want to congratulate you and everyone at your institution for winning the Paul Simon Award for Comprehensive Internationalization. That is saying a lot for the work that you're doing, particularly at the community college level. And looking at your website, looking at all the different things that you're doing, there's so many ways in which you engage students. So could you talk about one or two things that you're most proud of?
Sure. I would tell you, Lenitra, one of the interesting things is talking with students. And I mentioned both lived and professional experience. So San Antonio is 2.5 hours north of the U.S.-Mexico border. I visited towns in Mexico, but on the U.S.-Mexico border, right? So you don't really discover the richness of a country unless you go into the interior. I didn't go in to visit another country, and Mexico was the first country until 27 years ago. I'm 54. I was the age of 27, visited as part of actually a professional exchange that was orchestrated by NASPA, not NAFSA, but NASPA. And it was a relationship with the university system in Mexico, Tec de Monterrey, that is based out of Monterrey, but has multiple campuses throughout the country. And as part of that, it was a week-long experience with a couple of other colleagues that were in student affairs at that time and visited multiple cities, Mexico City, Guadalajara. But I didn't have that experience until I was 27. When students ask me, when I visit with classes throughout our system, and they say, if you had to do something different as an undergraduate, what would you do? And I tell them, I would have visited another country earlier. I wish I had done that as an undergraduate. I didn't have the opportunity until I was a working adult to be able to do that. So that's helped really inform practice for what we do here at Alamo. And in particular, the last 6 years that I've been chancellor, I'm just one, as I mentioned earlier, right, of over 5,500 faculty and staff. We have a great team in global initiatives and international programs that really enlist faculty champions and allies throughout the 5-college system, not only in study abroad, but actually because most of our students are first generation, they're going to school in addition to doing other things. So something that has been successful have been COIL, right, in which we work virtually, enlist our faculty members to connect with their peers at other institutions globally, and also work on specific projects to then enlist for students in their classes to be able to connect with their peers and those faculty members throughout the world. But one thing that I think we've touched on that is particularly important, and I'm sure through NAFSA you see increasingly, are what we're calling Alamo expeditions, which are week-long, right, 5 to 10 day long, curated educational experiences in other countries. That, I think, a lot more of our students opt into that because they are able, either with their partner or family members, to arrange childcare. they are able to not have to work for that time, right? To take time off, because that's an opportunity cost calculation that they make to be able to do that. So I think that our team in particular has touched on a wonderful opportunity through those 5 to 10 day expeditions that then complement COIL. And then as part of that, one of the things that our team has done, and I want to give a shout out to, our director, Alejandra Bueno, and her team in global initiatives. And you saw them when they went to New Orleans, right? Earlier in the summer, to be able to celebrate that acknowledgement. But we just went to central Mexico, to Querétaro, Mexico last week for us, and took 9 students on an expedition. It was part of a larger citywide delegation, but they were able to visit several university campuses within the state of Querétaro. And then we went with them and signed then an agreement with their presidents, or they call them rectores, to then facilitate an exchange. So we will welcome then 10 students from those institutions, and then we hope to facilitate that collaboration. But for us, what was phenomenal was that our students were there at ground zero along with us, and were there present at the signing of that partnership. We need to be able to provide more opportunities like that. I think one of the things that we need to do is to scale that. So COIL, and now increasingly what we call Alamo Expeditions, 5 to 10 day educational experiences, allow more of our students to opt in. Will we get to 77,000? I don't know. But imagine if we were able to get to 7,000 to be able to do that experience. And so I think that that's what we are entrusted with as higher education leaders, is to be able for our students to provide first-rate experiences in the community, regionally, nationally, of course, and then increasingly internationally.
Something you said resonated with me, and it has to do with the opportunity to go abroad sooner. I mean, I was lucky to go out of the country, I think when I was about 19, to Europe for a while. But I don't think that's the experience. And I think that there are a lot of students that don't even understand that could be an option. And then how do you go about doing that? Where's the access? Is anybody talking about it? And I know that Alamo Colleges District serves a diverse student population, and many of them are first-generation, low-income, like I was. And, what strategies have you implemented to support those students and ensure their success, and make sure that they get exposed to these opportunities, that they're visible for them and accessible?
Mark your calendars now for February 12th through 14th, because this is where we welcome the era of the modern learner and the most anticipated higher education marketing and enrollment management conference of the year. We're headed to New Orleans for Insights EDU 2025. This year's event is packed with speakers from companies like Google, Meta, Reddit, and MIQ Digital, and schools across the country. Ready to learn how AI is transforming the marketing landscape and how to adapt your programs to the preferences and demands of the modern learner? Then Insights EDU 2025 is where you need to be. Register now at insightsedu.com.
Attention.
Registration is now open for the Middle States Commission on Higher Education 2024 Annual Conference, Protecting the Future, Champions for Higher Education, December 11th through 13, 2024 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Don't miss out. Register today at msche.org/annual-conference. We'll see you there.
Hey everybody, this is Elvin Freitas, co-founder of the EdUp Experience. Are you enjoying the conversation so far? Good, I hope so. Did you know that you can actually hear this conversation early before anybody else and ad-free, so you don't have to hear my voice during these ads? And did you also know that you could get extended episodes, bonus episodes, original content? That's right, original content, and invites to special events, all while helping to sustain EdUp? Well, if you didn't know, now you know. So go to edupexperience.com, that's EDUP experience.com, and become a subscriber today. First, you got to sign up to our free email newsletter, and then you'll find out how to become a subscriber. Again, go to edupexperience.com.
Well, I think it is, and thank you, Dr. Shanderson. Thank you, Lori. I think it's incumbent upon all of us, right, to be able to do that and to do that at scale. So we know we have what's called, folks have a mission, vision, and values, and we also have a moonshot. And our moonshot is reflective of who we serve. San Antonio has one of the highest urban poverty rates within the nation. We know the difference between struggle and success for our students and our neighbors is a credential. A post-high school credential is going to make a difference in their lives. It's going to get them that job, get them that promotion, and be able to ensure that they can provide for themselves and their families. So we try and alleviate the cost burden as much as possible. So we have a Promise program that's called Alamo Promise. It connects 22,000 high school graduates with the opportunity of a no-cost, high-quality college education. So they can come to us at no cost for up to 3 years until they earn their certificate or associate's degree or transfer. We work with them with a caring professional. Initially, that's an enrollment coach that will partner with them to take them all the way through from interest to application to new student orientation. Then they give them a warm handoff to a certified advisor that's going to work with them from their first to their final semester when they cross the stage. Instructional materials are high cost, so we initially utilize the COVID relief dollars, right, HERF dollars, to be able to pay for their instructional materials. And then we insourced half of that. So it's about a $40 million cost for instructional materials for all of our students. We pay half of it. We pay about $20 million, and then students only pay $10 per credit hour. So, you know, an anatomy and physiology textbook, right, that used to cost them $300 now only costs them $30. So we alleviate that. The other thing that we know is just like international educational experiences, whether that's study abroad or increasingly these week-long expeditions, is we try and alleviate the cost for them. So whether they can use financial aid, we also have study abroad scholarships, about $200,000 that's available for students if financial aid cannot pay or if they've utilized most of their need-based financial aid. And then these expeditions will largely be supported by Alamo Colleges. We're going to try for anything that we do, like like what we call Alamo Books, where we utilized initially the COVID relief dollars. We try and develop proof of concept first. We either pay for that, we use a grant, we use private funds to be able to try that out, do a beta or pilot test, and then bring that to scale. So we were fortunate. We received a U.S. State Department grant, an IDEAS grant for these expeditions, and we're going to try that out increasingly, working and taking students and faculty members to 5 different countries. If that works and we figure out what works best, then we want to be able to expand that to make that available to more students. Just as we did with Alamo Books, we're increasingly doing that with internships, right, that should be paid internships. We've set aside $2 million of institutional funds to be able to place students in small businesses and other areas, because we know that if we don't provide some economic assistance, then they're going to be in another job that they have to work in until they get their credential. Oftentimes that doesn't relate to their area of interest or their major, so we want to be able to do that. I think we're fortunate. We either look for external funding or we figure out how to carve internal resources to be able to do that. But our students, right, first-generation students of color, our students deserve the very best. And so that's what is important to me. It's important to my colleagues, is we need to provide them with the best high-quality undergraduate experience that we can. And we need to figure out a way to get them there.
I really loved looking at your website and the way in which you blend the global and the local together. That's something that is so critical for our students to understand, that what's global is local and vice versa. And oftentimes they don't make that connection. I so resonate with both of your stories because I also grew up 2 hours from the Mexican border in San Bernardino, California. And it was a very international place as I look back on it. There were students from Vietnam and Mexico and all parts of Latin America and Canada, but most of us were minoritized in some way and made to feel as though what we were given was all that there was for us.
Wow.
And I always felt like there was something else out there for me. So that was really why I wanted to travel abroad. And I had a chance to go overseas at the age of 14 for about 10 days. And literally, it changed my life. I wouldn't be sitting here right now had I not had that opportunity. So I fully appreciate your commitment to getting these opportunities to students as early as possible, as often as possible, and not really focusing on the duration, but the fact that you get students a passport, have them take time off from their jobs and their families to get on that airplane or get in that vehicle and go overseas. It's really crucial, and it helps them to make that connection between what they may see in another country and what's going on right there in their communities. Someone I know recently said you can go around the world, but what's going on around the world is also going on around the corner. And I think that's a really apt way of helping our students make those connections.
That's particularly, that definitely gives me pause, just a sense of affirmation of how interconnected we are. I think the pandemic showed us that, demonstrated that to each of us. I would tell you last week we had a conversation during one of the evenings before we went to dinner at the museum, because part of this was linked to an exhibition with artists from San Antonio going to Querétaro in central Mexico. And one of the students in particular during the conversation mentioned the sense of affirmation that she felt because attending college, taking Mexican-American studies courses, she was Mexican, gave her a sense of affirmation. And then being able to travel to central Mexico to see illustrations through art of both her lived experience. It was an affirmation of who she was. And she was so touched. And in fact, several of the students mentioned that. So I think that sense, you mentioned minoritized, right? And I think looking at her sense of affirmation and having the connection to historically and culturally to who she was, and looking at both her college experience and now this experience of spending several days in Mexico, then is kind of in a way the anchor for her to then builds a foundation for her to then extend even further, and to say, this is possible for me to come back here, to come back to Mexico, to travel to other countries, because we are global, and it is to my benefit. And I think that's the other nice thing about students traveling as undergraduates. Both of you beat me. It was both of you did this before you were 20. So, I didn't do it until I was close to 30. But I think that it says this is attainable. Not only is my credential and my degree attainable, but these are things that I have heard or seen others do, but I can do this. I definitely can do this. So I think that's wonderful for our students. And, I just commend NAFSA for, what NAFSA does, because whether it's spreading a message, right, as we're doing in the podcast conversation, but national and international organizations that we're able to connect with, that provide us both the framework and provide us a means and are a learning community for us to do more for our students.
Thank you so much.
This is such important work, and I just can't get over the impact that, I thought I was really appreciating this international travel that I had early on, because it was so different than what I grew up from. So the impact was significant, but it is affirming to know that the impact is equally as significant for others that travel outside of our borders. And I think, to your point, Lenitra, there's not a lot that you can gain in a book that you can't when you go into another culture and you live it and you eat it and you drink it and you have to operate in it. The impact of that to someone who's young, I mean, I think it's immeasurable. You can't put that into words. It's pretty significant. But Dr. Flores, you've been an advocate for innovative approaches in higher education, including the use of technologies and partnerships with local businesses. Now we're looking at AI and things like that. Can you tell us what are some of the most successful collaborations you've seen, and how do they contribute to student success?
Well, I think there are two, and they're both employer partnerships and reflective of our ecosystem. So one that's interesting is actually international in nature. So I'm not only mentioning
like work development internationally.
It is a workforce development, yes. So we, there's a need for 50,000 nurses within the state of Texas. In San Antonio, we have a need for about 5,000 nurses. So we are busily increasing. Our charge is to increase our workforce development pipeline, double that. We have 8,000 students. We want to double that to about 16,000 students in the next 7 years. We're beginning first with nurses and healthcare, nursing and healthcare. So nursing in particular, we've engaged with conversations with hospitals and others, and they say, this is an acute crisis. We cannot find nurses. So we are increasing our capacity to train nurses here within our community. But we're also working in development of a transnational pipeline because there are an abundance of credentialed nurses in Mexico that are looking for jobs, and they're not in nursing. They're employed in other sectors. So we're working with a partner called Tech Milenio in Mexico that has campuses throughout the country. And they did an open call for a cohort of about 30 nurses. You have to be credentialed. And then we're preparing them virtually for the NCLEX exam, which is the nursing boards. So we did an open call on the internet. So what happened was there were several thousand applicants for these 30 initial slots. Actually, half of those came from the United States. They were individuals living in the United States that had a nursing credential from Mexico, but are employed predominantly in the service sector here because they do not have, right? They do not have documentation or papers to be able to work in that field here. So we're going to be able to address, right, the nursing crisis here. These could be individuals that are already in the United States or individuals coming from Mexico to be able to be employed in one of our regional hospitals here within the community. The other is working with EY, which used to be Ernst & Young. And so what they have done is they have a presence here in our community in San Antonio, is they also have a need for talent. And it used to be a bachelor degree job. You need the bachelor's degree for entry into this job. What they've done is they've looked at the scope and the work that's needed. They are now hiring associate degreed individuals to be able to do some of what initially was that position. And then they have those bachelor degree employees supervising the associate degree folks. And then they are giving them the opportunity for upward mobility. And these are high-paid, benefited positions. They've hired over 100 individuals that graduated or are recent graduates of our 5 colleges to be able to go into that position. So both of these, I think, are case studies. What we find when we talk with employers is they say, this is what I need. This is what I'd like to do. I am willing, but I don't know how to do it. And so each one is almost situational. And so we have these two as case studies with large organizations in high wage, high demand areas, right? Financial services and healthcare, in which there's a need for credentialed talent. But how do we get there? And so I think, Lori, those are 2 good examples. There are others, but of course, those are 2 selected examples that show the promise of being able to engage intentionally with individuals. And in both cases, right, one has been for a couple of years now, the EY partnership, and the other is kind of incipient, fairly new, but which employers are all in. And they've said, your students and your graduates are wonderful. We want more.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think we have time for one last question. I'll let Lenitra take that before we wrap up.
Okay, thanks. So my last question shifts gears a little bit, and I was wondering if you could tell us some of your secrets of success for being a college president. Being a college president is not easy, and in this particular time, it's even more challenging. It seems like every day in the newspaper, one or more presidents are resigning from their positions. But it's such a crucial leadership role in an institution, and you seem to do it so effortlessly. So do you have any advice for other college presidents or aspiring college presidents as to how they can be successful?
Oh my, I I would tell you, I'm a second generation college student, right? So both my parents grew up in migrant farm worker households, right? They were actually grew up in a border town on the United States side, and did what are called the migrant streams. My father worked in the canneries in California, and my mother actually then picked crops in the Midwest, and both came from large families. My father used the GI Bill to be able to get his college degree. And my mother was a paraprofessional in Head Start and got her degree actually being able as a working adult. So what they taught me, one was public service, and the other was the golden rule, that you treat everyone as you would like to be treated. And I would say that has served me well. Everybody within our organization, and of course, everybody we come across has hopes and dreams and promise, and everybody deserves respect. And I think that has always served me well. I think the other part is, being a CEO or aspiring to be a president or a chancellor is what I was an ACE fellow a long time ago, and Marlene Ross, who was the director for that program, the lead, said, always invite yourself to the party. And we said, well, what does that mean? And she said, you should, if your supervisor is doing something of interest to you, volunteer for it, right? Say you're interested in it. Ask them, have a sidebar with them, show that you are willing to go beyond what your job is and what that looks like. So I think those are particularly critical things. And the other is, I think, always being able to in the morning, look yourself in the mirror, right? Ensure that you are comfortable with the decisions that you have made, and always do right by yourself and others. And then the other is something that my mother mentioned is, you always, if you're going to go into a meeting or a contentious engagement, always just say to yourself, I come in peace. Right? Just always ground yourself and just, I come in peace. I'm well-intentioned. I come in peace. I want to do right by myself and others, and everybody deserves respect. And I think that those things have always served me well, and then I read this morning in the New York Times, and it was an opinion piece by Pamela Paul. And you mentioned, Lenitra, about just the churn, unfortunately, of colleagues who are well-intentioned and did right by themselves and others. And it really gave me pause because, and it was about Jonathan Holloway, right? Who is, this is going to be his final year at Rutgers. And I think this is a higher education leader who is well-intentioned. Right. And I was just I was taken aback by the opinion piece, but I thought that was just an unfortunate circumstance, but such a wonderful man. I don't know him. I've never met him. I've read stories about him, but that was just a testimony to who he is as a leader, how impactful he has been at very critical and important institutions in American higher ed, and how he has done right by himself and others. And I think that, that we just need to know as individuals who we are and who we serve, But as Jonathan Holloway mentioned, right, and has said, is he has always done right by himself. And he at this time said, I need to step away, but I am who I am. And I will leave knowing that I have done good and I have always done right. And I think that we always need to be able to look at the stories of people. That's a profile in courage. John F. Kennedy wrote that book decades ago, but what the opinion piece that she wrote is a profile in courage of a wonderful scholar and a wonderful higher education leader, but a wonderful human being. And I think that that's what we need to do. We need to tell those stories and talk about the great work that people are doing in higher ed. This is a contentious democracy and a polarized society, but it's incumbent upon us within higher ed to be the town square, right? And to have divergent thoughts, but to say that we're also human, and we want to do right by each other and by our students in our community. So I would leave you with that, and I think that's what it is. We're all human beings, and we're all well intentioned, and so that this morning, I'm going to send that to our 5 presidents and our leadership team, because that was just a critical piece, I think, and a wonderful testimony to higher education leaders. And I think we've seen this last year that we have wonderful colleagues throughout the United States and globally, whether in associations like yourself or in institutions of higher education that are well-intentioned. And unfortunately, things ended in circumstances that should not have ended in that way. And this is a difficult time and it's a difficult job, but let's herald those wonderful profiles in courage, because we need that on a daily basis to be able to continue and succeed for ourselves and for our communities.
That was great. I'm sorry, Lanisha.
No, I was just going to say that I read the same article and was equally as just disturbed at the outcome of Dr. Holloway's presidency, because as you said, it is a profile in courage, and all of the words that you said of advice really correspond so well to the work that he did as president himself. So what you're saying, I think, is so it sounds basic, but it's very rich in terms of thinking and insightfulness. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. I should have ended that a little earlier. I saw your face when are we still on? We're still on. I saw your expression. I'm sorry when I mentioned that, and I'm going to forever keep that opinion piece, because it is a profile in courage, and I think it's important for us to be able to talk to others, right? That either in conversations or perhaps your proteges that you're mentoring and others, because it is critical.
Yeah, and it definitely is something that needs to be shared, because it is a very isolating and lonely position at times, and you're called to make decisions ultimately based on your own values.
Yes.
They may not be in alignment with everyone else's. So I have so enjoyed this discussion today, first with my lovely co-host, NAFSA. Yes, I can't get it together. And of course, thank you so much, Dr. Mike Flores, who again is the chair of the Alamo Colleges district. It's been amazing having you both on today, and I love the direction of the conversation and what we were able to talk about, because these are very impactful topics that I think our listeners, of course, they clamor to learn more about and hear more about. And for our listeners out there, if you are interested in learning anything about higher education, the EdUp Experience podcast has, I think, a podcast on anything and everything that has to do with higher ed. And I happen to host the podcast on accreditation, but that's just one of them in the huge portfolio of podcasts that are offered. So wherever you find podcasts, you should check out the EdUp Experience. So again, thank you so much today, lovely co-host and guest. We appreciate you on the EdUp Experience podcast, and have a great day.
Higher ed leaders, ready to level up your marketing and enrollment strategy? Join us at Insights EDU February 12th through 14th in New Orleans. The ultimate higher education marketing and enrollment management conference is here. Take advantage of early bird prices until December 12th. Register now at insightsedu.com. Welcome to the era of the modern learner.
Attention.
Registration is now open for the Middle States Commission on Higher Education 2024 Annual Conference, Protecting the Future, Champions for Higher Education, December 11th through 13th, 2024 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Don't miss out. Register today at msche.org/annual-conference or head to msche.org and click on the conference link. I'll see you there.
Hey, everybody. This is Elvin Freitas, co-founder of the EdUp Experience. Did you enjoy that conversation? I hope you did. Did you know that you can actually hear this conversation early on and ad-free? And you can also hear extended episodes, bonus episodes, original content. That's right, original content and invites to special events, all while helping to sustain EdUp. Did you know that? Well, if you didn't know, now you know. To become a subscriber, go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com to subscribe to our free email newsletter to learn how you can get access. Again, that's edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com.